Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the next episode in our series of the quintessential bulletproof practice owner's manual for success. Hopefully, you appreciated the previous episode, took lots of notes, did some homework. Now, get ready to do some more work on your business. Get out pad and paper, and let's go. Hello, and welcome to the Private Practice Owners Club. We are on our final episode of the Practice Owner Manual series. This is episode number 10 of that series, part 9. And today's focus is on growth and expansion slash leadership development. So,
Yeah.
Adam, this is awesome, man. Thanks for coming in again.
Yeah, dude. Happy to be here.
All right. So, you've listened to us for a number of episodes up into this point. Hopefully, you got into this point laying out a foundation for your company that you're got some solid pieces in place. You've got some processes in place. You've got them, number one, written down. Number two, you're following through on them. You've got other people following through on them with you. Went through a lot of the basics and whatnot. And you're thinking, all right, I've got this opportunity. I've got such and such building has a vacancy now. It's a perfect part of the city. There's a ton of traffic. I want to open up over there and I've got to do it now. Well, today we're going to talk about if you should or not, essentially. This is what we're going to talk about. So hopefully you've gotten a lot of value from the previous episodes. This one will kind of wrap a bow on it, and I'm sure we can add more to it as we get down the road and as we get feedback from you guys as to what more you'd like to hear about. But we'll focus on these 10 for now and package them for you. And I mentioned it in the first episode that we did with these, is that Adam's going to be putting these together in a special package for members of our clientele, our coaching clients, and making it part of our vault. Adam's built out a huge, robust vault, and congratulations, by the way, Adam. That's pretty awesome for people who are looking for all the specifics of the things that we've mentioned, all the nuts and bolts and details, the job description, the templates, you name it, that can help with your policy and procedure creation and how you interact with your team. He's put a ton of that together in our vault. It is available to our coaching clients, and this is going to be a big part of that in taking people from startup to the growth and expansion phase. So, number one, congratulations on putting this all together, Adam.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. But number two, this is going to be a big part of that. So, as we're looking at growth and expansion, I think one of the things we want to talk about first, and correct me if we should start with from a different tact here, but that is looking at developing out leadership in your team. Do you want to start there, or do you want to go somewhere else?
Well, if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, then I think that's where you start, right? So, like, this is going without saying, and we'll get into that, but it's going like you have a marketing plan in place, you have policies and procedures,
There
they're
we go.
ran effectively,
Yep.
you're hiring, you have a hiring process, you have all the recruiting systems down, like all those things are done for they're done, they're complete, they're efficient, and you're not doing all of them, right? So yeah, I think leadership is a good place to start. Yeah, let's talk about leadership.
Yeah, we haven't really discussed it that much because we've banged the gong a lot about policy and procedures and creating SOPs and job descriptions and that kind of stuff. And those things are very helpful in making sure that your clinic is running based on policy and not by people. You know what I mean? It's a policy run organization is a much more effective and productive organization than a people run organization,
Mhm,
because a people run organization is going to be dependent upon the people and
mhm.
whether or not they want to work today, or if they're productive, or their opinions versus what needs to be done, versus a policy run organization, which is run by policy no matter who's there running it. And that can be effective, efficient, consistent, you name it. So, um, building out leaders then on top of that is an essential role in your expansion, because at some point for you to move up in the organization and seeing yourself on the organizational chart and moving to the next box up above it and not filling in all the boxes down below from janitor to front desk operator, then it requires you to build out some leadership, some teams of leaders that can do some of this work, and you can delegate some of these issues to people. So I think one of the things that we've talked about in the past that helped me a lot, because a lot of people don't know where to start. So I want to have a leader on my team. Maybe that person is a leader over the front desk personnel. Maybe that's a leader over the a clinic director per se. But where to start is like, okay, do I just give them the title and send them off on their way? That's what I would have done in the past, and told them, here, kick them out of the nest and say, here, figure out how to fly. Um, but a much better way is to be a little bit more intentional about leadership development and growing leaders on your team. So one of the first things that I like to consider when I'm considering leaders are, okay, I have my core values in place and I have some productivity metrics. Who are some of the people on my team that pretty well follow our values and align with our purpose all the time? They do a really good job with it. They fit into the culture. They work well with others. The business is better because they're there. I would enthusiastically hire them again if they came before me. And they're really good at producing.
Mm.
Like producing is not a concern of theirs. That's the first place I would start. Tell me what you're thinking of as you're thinking of how to differentiate and find those initial leaders in your company.
I think that's exactly right. That's perfect, right? Um, you know, just imagine like you're in the clinic and something really terrible happens. Maybe not too terrible, but something that's just kind of like, oh, it's disruptive. It's not fitting into my schedule. There's one person that you're going to call. Who are you going to call? That's probably that's probably your leader, right? The
Mhm.
person that's just dependable. They show up, they're consistent, they're dialed in. Um, I always like to use this what is this? Like on the horizontal axis, maybe it's production, or no, it's value alignment. On the vertical axis is value alignment. On the horizontal, it's production, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
you want people who are maximally value aligned and maximally productive. Those are your
Right.
A players,
The upper
right?
right quadrant of
The
people.
upper right quadrant, right? Those are the people that are like, hey, they're gonna get it done, and you know what? They're bought into the culture.
Mhm.
Start hanging out with them a little more.
And as it pertains to growth and expansion, it's really hard to do that without those type of people on your team.
It's impossible. Like there's only so much heavy lifting that you can do by yourself,
Mm.
right? Heavy lifting meaning like doing the hard things, making the hard decisions, doing the hard things, putting in the hard hours, right? You can't do that all by yourself forever, especially maybe one clinic, maybe, but like definitely not two.
Mhm.
You're gonna need somebody who wants to pick that boulder up with you, who's picking it up and like, hey, I got you.
Yeah,
That's your
because at
leader.
some point you become the hurdle to the company,
Correct.
right? If it's all
You're
on
the weak
you,
link.
yeah, you become the weak link, honestly. And what's interesting is people will say that, but they don't actually believe it because they want to think that they're the exception to the rule. And I've got all the time. I don't have the money. I know all the answers, and it's easier for me to just do it myself than to have someone else do it.
Good luck with that.
That won't last long.
No, it won't.
No. Um, and so, what do you say to people who might be saying, what if I don't have any of those people on my team right now?
Yeah, gotta find them.
Right.
You know, I would say that you probably have the wrong people on the bus. There was a time when we were coaching. You were coaching me, and I had it all in place. I was like, I got 2 or 3 PTs on my team. I had my front desk. I thought I had it all in place, but I had enough in place to where I was happy. I was like, hey, I'm ready to start thinking about clinic number 2. But we weren't growing. Like we weren't really growing. Like we were just kind of stagnant.
Mhm.
And I was like, Nathan, like what's going on? Like what do I need? And you said something that really hit me. And you said, your PTs just aren't that good. Sounds like you just need some better PTs. And that really resonated with me. I realized like, oh my gosh, like I don't have anybody on my team who can help me at that capacity. I have a bunch of staff people on my team. Guess what? I had to go recruit and find an A player
Yeah.
and replace them, you know?
Yeah.
And through that process was unlocked so much possibility. I went and found 2 A player PTs, hired them, opened up 2 more clinics.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, go back and listen to the last episode about recruiting
Yeah.
and hire, and the one before that about hiring and onboarding, and focus on that if you don't have those people on your team right now, because that's one of the reasons why we were always hiring. We always had an ad out for all of our positions. We were always going through that process simply because the best way to grow is to get a bunch of A players. And the best way to stay stagnant and not go anywhere is to tolerate C players. And you'll stay in business, but it won't be fulfilling. You'll have a culture that you don't enjoy. You'll have people around you that you don't enjoy spending a majority of your life with because you're there 8 to 10 hours a day. Yeah. Go out and recruit and find some more people. Honestly, it's a hard pill to swallow because that's like, oh crap, that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
But
it is a lot of work.
if it is a lot of work, but if you have aspirations for hire, it hit me when I heard it the first time, and I say it all the time. The people who have gotten you here are not the people that will get you there. You have to
Yep.
replace them. Even the good ones, even the good ones. And what I found is the ones that like the front desk people that stuck with me when I was at 50 visits a week. And then I grew to 150 and I wanted to open a second clinic. And I started implementing policy and procedures on how things should get done when I didn't have that structure in place. That person that I swore by, that I would live and breathe and die with and wanted to be on my team for the rest of my life, when they got to 150 and they started seeing changes, that person was expendable. They couldn't follow the policy and procedure. They acted out. They didn't follow the values. And that just speaks to the people that got you here are not the people that will get you there. You need newer skill sets. You need greater capabilities. You need to develop leaders. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you'll be able to grow and expand well. Because as you find those people that are value aligned, buy into the culture, help you establish the policy and procedure, lead out on the team, and and are looking to produce and do more with you, those are the people that are going to lead you to further growth and expansion, right?
That's right. You know, you should if you've implemented everything up to this point, well, you should have a team, clinicians, they're fairly productive. You've got a clinic that's growing, it's profitable, everybody's pretty organized, and at some point, it's time for you to start stretching your team, right? That came from a mentor of mine. It's like your job is to stretch. Your job is to get not average results out of people. Like your job is to get extraordinary results out of people. Help them become the best versions of themselves. They got to be willing to do hard things. And if you want to find out who wants to be an A player and who doesn't, start stretching them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you really quick who wants to step up and do it and who doesn't.
Yeah, because the default is if I've got this experienced PT who's got maybe some managerial experience over other PTs, has been a clinic director in the past and is super productive, and just assuming that they're going to be great in this managerial capacity in your company, that's a huge, you're leading yourselves to a potentially huge problem. They could be great, but they need to learn leadership the way, or they need to learn how you do things in your
Mhm.
company, how you lead others in your company, which could be totally different than what they came with. Now, what they came with and experienced in the past, you're by all means welcome to bring that forward and say, well, we did this over here and I think that worked rather well. Do you want to do that here? Yes or no? And then that's up to you as the leader to say, I appreciate that, but I see it this way and I'd rather do it this way. So you appreciate that experience and you appreciate their experience in terms of brainstorming and bringing solutions to the table, but you need to still be the ultimate determinant, because sometimes a good B player that is productive is not the best leader.
Mhm.
There are some people who are just meant to be worker bees and they just want to be worker bees and they can do that. But what we're talking about is growth and expansion and moving forward. Those people could have a place on our team, but it was understood that they really weren't going to go anywhere, that their responsibilities outside of treating patients or running the front desk were not much. Maybe they were more superficial about develop, leading out on the charity drive
Right.
or or on the birthdays and making
Hmm.
sure everyone got a birthday card on their birthdays. And they had other responsibilities that weren't necessarily leadership roles. So there are those people, and that's the default is if I'm going to find a leader, I need to find that person who has a ton of experience and is super productive. That's not totally true, right?
Nope.
It starts with, are they value aligned? And
Yep.
one of my best clinic directors was a PTA. She grew up with me from a really small clinic. I don't know why, but she was super loyal to me and she stayed with me through all the hard lessons that I had to learn and all the crap that I put her through. But once we gave her some structure. She was a great clinic director. Man, they could produce. And it was
Hmm.
amazing because she wasn't the best PTA. She was a productive PTA, but her skills weren't necessarily there, but she was a great leader. People loved her. And so there are those people that you've got to find that they're just not, you just don't default to the most productive, most experienced person. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yep. Yeah, I would say my experience working with owners is it's usually that one clinician who's just like rock solid. You have a training in place, you're training other they're helping you train other therapists, they're helping you keep them productive. They're almost acting like a director. They're helping you lead out on the team meeting some, right? They're really, really active. And then so that person, whoever that is in your practice, and then very much likely that front desk person who's just got the whole front desk figured out and they're maybe helping you train other front desk people, right? They're helping you with payroll, they're helping you with your accountant. They're kind of tied into some of your personal things and they have access to some of the personal things that maybe not everybody has access to.
Mm,
Those two people, I mean, that's kind of like your first leadership team. It's you and those two. You have your administrator, right? And then you have your clinic director,
mhm.
right? And so it's like, hey, this is the inner circle, right? This is the leadership team.
Yeah.
So step one, like let's establish a rhythm, a meeting rhythm where we can start talking about things outside of the team meeting, some of the bigger topics, some of the things, some of the bigger plans, and start having that leadership meeting outside of the regular team meeting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you're looking at leadership, we talked about onboarding, I think 2 episodes ago. And you need to consider that coming into a leadership position like this also requires its own onboarding. Like, so I've mentioned this numerous times in past episodes, but the last thing you want to do is to give somebody a title with along with the salary bump and then start training them. That's the wrong way around. So for us, the clinic director meant there was an agreement. We decided on this person. They agreed with us. Hey, I want a path to leadership. Great. Okay. All right. So we're going to put you in the leadership development program. And while you're in the leadership development program, or at least at some point during the leadership development program, we're going to give you a title of clinic director in training,
Hmm.
right? No salary increase, but you're going to start learning what it means to be a leader in our clinic. And that includes this leadership program, which might be reading some books that we agreed to. I think we've done a full episode on this before because this sounds
Probably,
familiar.
probably.
Just look back somewhere in the last 8 months or so. I'm pretty sure we've done something like this. Read some of the same books that were influential to the owner. Here are some of the trainings. Here are some of the meetings that were expected. Maybe give them some homework, lead out on a meeting. Here's a problem in the clinic right now. Bring to me 2 or 3 solutions on how you would handle it. Hey, here's a charity drive. You want to lead out on that? Give them some opportunities to lead. Watch how the team follows them or not, right? Let them implement solutions and walk them through it. Coach, this is where you become the coach, right?
Mhm.
I'm coaching you to become a leader. And how are you going to handle this when so and so is not productive? What are the KPIs that you're going to track? And how often are you going to track them? And how are you going to report them to me, your supervisor, your direct report? So Developing out a leadership program is the next stage. Once you've identified that person, they've been on your team, you've noticed their value aligned, they're productive. Now you engage them into onboarding to leadership through your leadership development program. And it doesn't have to be long and exhaustive, but you got to be able to have them show themselves that they are leaders in some capacity with a little bit of coaching.
Absolutely. And you've got it. There's 9 episodes of material to pull from. It's like
Right.
you talk about your purpose and values and what it means and why it's there, and why we have a sales process, what it means, and why we market, what marketing is, right? What's the org board and the onboarding process and the hiring process? What is the policy and procedure? How do we do it? How do we do a team meeting? This is how we lead it this way. And you really want to create a mini CEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's a mini version of yourself that's inside that clinic, who can think and act similar to you, and maybe they're not the true CEO, but they can behave as if they are a CEO of their world.
Right.
So they need to know those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I remember doing not my first clinic director training, but the second one. Once I polished it up really, really nice, it was really, really cool to hear them say, wow, this is really awesome. I really understand why we do some of the things that we do now, right? And it just and then once they understood the why, we actually talked about this in the meeting that we had with our team just before this. But like once they understood the purpose and how this all fit into the big picture, man, the buy-in and the drive that they had, and they really owned it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just helping them see that, and then coaching them through how to apply it to their day to day. 6 months later, you have a great leader who can help you do some of the heavy lifting.
That was going to be my next question. How long do you think a leadership development program should take? I mean, it's individualized because some people might catch on a little bit faster. Maybe they have some experience in holding people accountable or the KPI metrics and your dashboard and whatnot. But what's your expectation in terms of that leadership development program and how fast they get through it?
6 to 12 months.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah,
of up to
six.
them.
Yeah, I think it's the way that we do it is it's self-paced.
Right.
We don't push any type of um, you know, checklist that things have to be done in a certain time frame. It's self-paced, and we try to incorporate ways that they can improve the culture, be proactive about improving the culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? Identify one gap that you see in our culture and create a plan to help improve it.
Right.
What a great assignment. You know what I mean? What a great assignment, right? You want to get them thinking about, like, how do I get my team happy?
Right.
What a great assignment. Like, I would probably write that down. Right. And that's a great thing for you to do with them. And that doesn't, you can't create culture problems. Those are things that just kind of happen organically. So it's hard to put a
Mhm.
timeline on that.
Yeah. And how much do you pay them for this stuff?
I don't pay them anything. I
That's
mean, I
right.
think I think that
Nothing.
we just kind of block off a little time on their calendar so
There
they
you
can
go.
start meeting with us individually, and we can start actually having real authentic conversations around that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, you have to recognize there has to be some point before they get into this leadership development program that they've expressed a desire to become a leader in your company, right? And you also equally want them to become a leader in your company. So you are going to set aside some time for them. But the pace at which they get through the program is essentially dependent upon their desire. You can't force that upon anybody, right? If they want to get through it quickly, great. If they want to take their time, okay, maybe there are some external factors. I think one thing you have to recognize that might kick somebody out of that program is their inability to follow through on things that they've committed to, their inability to garner the attention and the commitment of other team members, an inability to um, follow through and communicate with team members in a positive and productive uh, uplifting way,
Mhm.
right? And maybe their solutions to problems just are different. Maybe they're outside of what you would expect. Maybe they don't represent the values or how you exactly want to get things done. Right. Have you ever had to like usher someone off of the leadership development track? And what were some of the things that they were doing that led you that way?
Just a lack of focus, a lack of focus, and a lack
A lot of
of
excuses.
yeah, a lot of lack of significance to the importance of why the program is there.
Mhm.
And you know, those are those are indications that some people just don't want to grow with you.
Yeah.
Right?
And the last thing, and then this goes back to the reason why we give them the clinic director in training title without the salary bump is because of this right here. If things go awry, it's easy to take off that in training portion and or the clinic director in training title and just put them back where they were before without creating some kind of upset where you essentially have to let them go. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to embarrass them in that regard. So that's exactly why we did it that way.
Well, there's really three main products to the leadership team. Number one is going to be developing an unmatched patient experience. Number two is facilitating a thriving company culture. And number three is going to be growing profitability.
Mhm.
That's your job as a leader, right? That's your job in this company. Whether you're a director or a director of admin or director of recruiting, like your attention should be on one of those three things, right?
Right.
If not all of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it takes a CEO mindset to do that, right? It's
Hmm.
not an employee mindset. Those are two different things.
Right. Exactly. Someone who really takes ownership for their position, whatever
Mhm,
it is at the time.
mhm,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah. So, thinking back to when you opened your second clinic, do you think it was imperative that you had that clinic director in place, or were you able to get by without it?
Oh, no. No, I had to have it in place.
Yeah. And
I
some
I'm
form of policy and procedure, I'm assuming as well.
yes, some form of accountability. I would assume that it's probably possible to do it without it. Probably not gonna be fun. It's probably gonna be way more challenging.
Huge headache.
Huge headache, right? But one of the greatest paths to getting wealthy or success is your ability to learn how to let go. And that was a quote shared by a mentor of mine. And the only way you're going to truly be able to let go is if you have people that you trust who have demonstrated the ability to do the heavy lifting with you,
Mhm.
right? And if you don't have that, you're going to find yourself gripping way too tightly to things that you shouldn't be any longer, and you're just going to be divided, you're going to be stretched, and you're not going to be able to be effective as a leader in your company. It's going to be
Yeah,
really
it's
hard.
one thing for you to be able to drive production. So some of the growth statistics that I often reference are um, your utilization rate. You want it to be above 85%.
Mhm, mhm.
Utilization rate being the number of appointment slots that you have on your calendar across all providers compared to how many are actually filled during the course of the week. And you want that percentage of filled slots to be 85% and above on average.
Yes.
And if you're especially looking at bringing on another provider or going to another clinic as a whole, you want that to be 90% if you can, but at minimum 85%, right? You also, and you also have to consider financials. So that clinic that has that utilization rate is maximally profitable, right? Now, there are other things to consider. Yeah, you might want to open a second clinic, but if you want to really push the maximum productivity out of a certain square footage, then you take that square footage divided by 10%, and that's your average visits, PT visits per week. And this is dependent upon demographics, but like in New York, where it's super tight, these people blow that ratio out of the water. But if you have a 2,000 square foot clinic, 10% is 200. Your max capacity is about 200 visits per week.
Mhm,
Then you also know it's probably time to grow,
mhm.
right? Find more space, move on, get another bigger space, or find a second, right? So those are some of the growth KPIs to go off of. but to go back to my point, it's one thing for you as the owner to drive those productivity numbers and get that production. It's a second thing, a completely different skill set to have someone that's not the owner drive those numbers and hold them where they need to be while you're looking to grow and expand. And so
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about here is leveraging others to continue to improve production and thrive where it's not you. Because if you're looking at a second location specifically, you're going to be tied up in the construction of it, the lease negotiations of it, the equipment purchases, yada, yada, hiring team members for that second clinic, getting them trained up and onboarded. Maybe you're pulling from the other clinic, so you got to train them in for the first clinic. All those things are going to be required of you, and at least at this stage. And to do that while you're also trying to maintain productivity at the first clinic is just, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really it's really cool to hear that. Y- Being able to lead your team is kind of like level 1 of leadership, right? Or maybe level 2, right? But being able to lead a person who can lead the team, that requires another level of leadership from you.
Right.
Like you've got to be more clear, more explicit, more right, more you can't show up and cuss everybody out at the team meeting, right? You can't be all stressed out. You got to be able to listen more, and there's a lot of leadership skills that you have to be able to develop. But yeah, like being able to get that kind of work done through people is requires something different from you.
Yeah. And I think that's especially necessary for that second clinic. Now, as you get to a third and a fourth clinic, and you've experienced this, that's where you can, as you've started to develop an even greater leadership team. Now, maybe you have a marketing person, maybe you have someone, they're full time or part time. Maybe you have a recruiting person or a person over HR, and maybe they're part time or full time. And you have a clinic director in place, and you have higher level meetings. Now you can like start handing some of these things off to your leadership team
Mhm.
when they have
Mhm.
a when you have a couple clinics underneath you, and start having them help build out that third and fourth clinic as you grow further. So,
Yeah.
but this is just that we're talking right now just about the germination of that leadership team. But this is where it starts, is when you're starting to think about really growing up as an organization, um, transitioning from mom and pop to enterprise, if you will. Not, and so not everything is run according to Nathan, but everything is run according to policy and procedure, right? We follow standard operating procedures, and we don't just ask Nathan for all the answers.
That's right.
Let's get out of that as
Yeah.
soon as possible. And when you're able to do that, I think that's when, and you tell me, but that's when you saw a level of freedom in your first clinic when you had a clinic director and maybe a couple of PTs underneath it. Maybe you hit that magic 4 or 5 provider mark that seems optimally profitable. But it just, you reach another level, you take on some greater purpose as an owner, right? And you also develop another skill set, but you also develop a different level of freedom to where now you're separating yourself so much further away from the day to day and just working exclusively with your leadership team.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way that I like to recall that experience in my head was my unit of measure used to be patient visits per week. And then once I kind of had that first clinic operating without me being there, like I had a director, I had a leader there, I wasn't in the team meeting anymore. And I was really able to like go all in on like my stats and my pro forma and my financials and really kind of see on a deeper level how things worked from a metric standpoint. Then my unit of measure became I have a clinic, have another clinic, I have another clinic, right? Like I was able to zoom out a little bit further as a leader and see how how the big picture was, right?
Like the percentage of productive clinics
Yeah, like the
versus
vision expand. It's like, oh
yeah,
wow,
exactly.
look at this unit, right? And then so it's like once you develop that, step one, having that leadership team, it's like, okay, how do I create how do I create a pro forma? How do I create this again? Right? The pro
Mhm.
forma, the policies, the procedures, the systems,
Right, right, right.
and create a playbook on how to create that so I can package number two.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. And you have some of that for clients, don't you, in the vault?
Absolutely, I
Of course
do.
you do.
Absolutely, I do.
They don't have to figure this out by themselves,
But the
right?
game becomes different.
Right.
Now you're playing the real game of being an
Mhm.
owner,
Mm.
right? The real game of being an owner is not like hiring and firing and all that stuff, right? The real game is like opening and expanding your business. That's the real game that everybody else is playing. Welcome to the real game,
Right.
right?
Could you have ever imagined back when you I at least I wasn't this way. I think you might have had a different mindset than me, but I could never have imagined back when I was treating patients, starting my clinic, and even when I was getting to like 100, 150 visits a week. That was my goal initially. If I could get two providers at 150 visits a week, that was like dreamland, right?
Mhm.
I was in La La Land. Maybe I had a PTA or two and whatever, but that's all I needed. And I would constantly now tell myself, if I'm just treating patients like this in the future and having to deal with all the business stuff, I'm going to get burned out really quick. I really need to find someone who runs the business for me so I can just treat patients all the time. And could you have ever imagined that you would be so far away from that at the point that you are? Like I never even thought that something could replace my passion for patient care.
Yeah. Yeah, you grow.
Did you
You
have
grow.
some of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that and I can't really put a whole lot of words to it right now, but I think I've experienced this journey of like, man, I want to open a clinic. If I just had a clinic
Mhm.
with that was mine, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And then you do that and you're just treating, and then as you learn and grow and evolve and become see more possibilities, then your perspective changes, right? Like your purpose changes and you start seeing like, wow, maybe I could what if I could do this and what if I could do that? And it just keeps going. It just keeps going and going. It's like, what if I had 2 clinics? What if I had 3? What if I had 10? What if I started a coaching company? What if I was coaching others? And it just
Ah,
keeps you can keep challenging yourself and you keep seeing new possibility for yourself.
yeah. I mean, I opened up my clinic 22 years ago, almost 23 when this episode comes out, and I would have never imagined I'd be where I'm at right now. Like just crazy. But I think I bring that up because this is what we're talking to people about with the podcast and why we put together this series of 10 episodes regarding the practice owner manual series and how to build a successful clinic is because there's so much more. PT owners can be so much more, do so much more than they are. And they just need a little bit of guidance. As I've told you in the last few episodes, you have to get a coach or consultant of some kind. If you've listened to this and you haven't reached out to us or someone else, I don't care. You have to have some kind of support and guidance because there is so much more on the other end of this, on the other side of things. Yeah, you could be a PT all your life and that'd be great. Frankly, let me tell you the truth. I don't personally see a lot of fulfilled 60 and 70-year-old PTs out there that are still treating patients full time, right? There's so much more to it. And if you're an owner, that allows you to see new vistas, create new things, build new skill sets, be more, even finding a different purpose is what I found. I've got a completely different purpose than I did 20 years ago. There's so much more to be fulfilled. And that's where coaching, consulting has to become a part of it. And it's so simple as just reaching out, book a call with us, book a call with Adam, no strings attached. We'll help you with your pain points and get you and help you out through that call. But you need to find someone. You need to find someone for help. And especially with the pressures that we have in the industry at this point, inflationary pressures, upward pressures, the downward pressures of reimbursement, got to have someone that can help you navigate through that stuff, man.
Totally agree. Not only that, you gotta want it.
Right.
And a lot of people say they want to be an owner until it's time to do owner stuff. You know what I mean? It's
That's
like
true.
you
Yep.
gotta want it, you
I've
know?
got sons that want their own businesses, and when we tell them what they need to do, a month later, we're like, "So how'd you do?" Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I'm still thinking about it. Yeah, still
yeah,
putting
keep thinking
together.
about it, bro. We'll give you the flyers that you need to pass out. Did you pass any out? I'm not sure. And yeah, you got to want it. You can't make excuses, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I wanna just kind of package this up for our
Please,
manual creators, if
please.
that's okay. Um, because you have your pen and paper out, and on the top it's what is this, chapter 9, chapter 10,
10.
chapter 10, and it's growing and scaling.
Mhm.
Under that is step 1 is develop, assuming you have everything else in place and everybody's productive, you have some type of leadership development process in your clinic via identifying A players on your team and pushing them through a leadership development process via the books that you've read and the things that you've learned. Ideally, somebody who can help you on the clinical side and the administrative side, such that you can completely exit. You don't have to treat any patients anymore,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Right. So that's kind of, you could write that down. It doesn't have to be complicated. We've referenced so many books in this podcast. I mean, how many, name 4 or 5 books that were really influential to you, right? And build a
Mhm.
program around them. From there, you can start managing your practice more remotely and more hands off by taking a much deeper dive into the statistics, the statistical performance of your practice,
Yeah.
right? How do I manipulate the production, and how do I operationalize what I'm looking for in that practice to create the profit margins that we need, right? And then from there you can create a playbook on how to copy what you've created and paste that into multiple locations.
Right.
And then from there you can train people on the playbook, and then you can further exit the practice. But that's
Mhm.
that's the true game of growing and scaling your practice.
Right. Right. Exactly. And coming from experience, this is the best way to do it. You can always open a second. I've opened a second location too early before, and I'm surprised that it thrived the way I did. But I invested in the right person, and kind of went on a wing and a prayer. But I gave them zero support, and it almost crashed and burned. But I was thankful for that person to pull it through. So shout out to Will Humphreys. Um, but this is the best way to do it. If you want to survive some headaches and really grow in a substantial and fulfilled way that's not leading to a ton of stress and anxiety and stress on your family and marriage, this is a good way to do it. The best way to do it.
Yeah. Even if you get a coach, it's going to be hard. So
Oh,
it's
that's true. You can't get rid of that. That's for sure.
yeah,
Right. Cool, man. All right. Well, reach out to us, Nathan at PTO Club, Adam at PTO Club, and let us know what you think about the series. If, like I said, if you think there are other topics that we might have missed, we thought it might be pretty comprehensive, but of course there might be holes in it. But dude, thanks for going through me on this journey with me, Adam. It's been good to cover all this stuff, and hopefully it's valuable to people that are listening out there. Appreciate it,
for
dude.
sure. For sure, man. It was really cool. Maybe we'll think of some other ideas and we'll do them.
That's right. All right. Thanks, man.
All right, brother.